Hey guys, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity bottom left hand corner. We got Wizard starting as the blue Zerg upper left hand corner. We got Worst starting as the red Protoss. This is going to be, of course, on Radion. Seems to be a popular map to play on. Larger macro-oriented map. I think I am going to favor Worst in this. He's, out of all the players we've seen thus far, I didn't get to see a lot of games of Lancer. Lancer X looked really, really good, so I still think I'm favoring him. I think the number 2 guy I'm thinking that might make it to the finals of this Gosuleague Tier 2 is Worst. Worst looks fantastic. He's been macroing very, very well. Just been playing phenomenally. Wizard not that far behind. I think Wizard, I would put a tie for second place as far as like Wizard and Worst. I could see either of these guys making it to the final. So this matchup will be particularly telling. Probe wandering out, going to go ahead and drop that pylon near the natural expansion. Overlord making its way bottom right hand corner for Wizard here. I will say one of the it was drawn to my attention actually with the comment recently. The only thing I can think of is that Wizard kind of did what I would consider a miscalculation one of these games a bit ago, where he morphed a why can I not say it? The thing that comes after hatchery, not hive, layer. He morphed a layer in kind of a precarious location at a third, and I'm not going to say that's the precise thing that cost him the game, but it certainly was not helpful. Going for a drone cancellation, so very likely going to invest heavily and aggressively in Zerglings. And in the meantime, Worst, is he going to go for Nexus first? Okay, he hasn't dropped the Forge yet, is dropping the Forge now, is scouting with initial probes to try to see whether he can sneak a Nexus initially or not. Wizard making his way out with his own drone scout, so Overlord's going to make it making its way around. It's going to make its way bottom right. We'll be able to eliminate that. It looks like with the probe coming across here, might have recognized he's got pay dirt. This isn't going to be Zergling speed, but with that Overlord cancellation, or sorry, with the drone cancellation, you are padding it a little bit where you can produce a few more Zerglings if you want to. Right now, the drone actually pushing Worst back. Worst really needs to be careful here, and he's occupying that space. He is dropping 2 cannons, which is necessary, and critically, this is actually big. Having that probe to defend the cannon line, very significant, because sometimes you can have the drone just sit there and peck away at that cannon and soften it up for the Zerglings. In the meantime, Wizard opting to go ahead and grab his second base. Not natural, his second base, out to the corner. Drone going to return back home. The cannon should warp in time before these Zerglings are able to get a lot accomplished. And we do have this probe that's able to get the scouting information. Critically, the gas, so it isn't, looks like it's not going to be 3 hatch before gas. Single Zergling losing its life right there. But the probe pretty healthy. I think this is going to work out decently for Worst. He was able to delay the natural expansion a bit, although it looks like he's not going to be able to delay the third. The drone count is a little bit lighter as a result of the 9-pool opener. And otherwise, he's got full information. And usually with 9-pool, either... And yeah, he invested some additional cannons that might provide some extra support if there's going to be 3 hatch Hydra busts or things along those lines. Zerglings crowding around, so okay, they're just checking to make sure that there was no cannon line going up behind. Did they just not know? I think Wizard has unfortunately lost track of this probe, and that's going to give Worst, is he going to, oh, he has an opportunity actually to cannon this in. I don't think he's going to take that opportunity. Yeah, you can see Wizard still trying to find that probe. Doesn't know where it's at. In the meantime, we have a tech to layer in the space of this, so we're just going to get a lot of information. Yeah, the Zerglings still have no idea where this is at. First Cell has not yet taken the field, by the way. Two Overlords trying to reposition. How long is it going to last? Now catches it. Does Worst recognize? Does not recognize. Ah, that's brutal. That probe lasted such a long period of time, had such an opportunity to get some fantastic later stage scouting, and instead gets surrounded and mauled at the worst possible moment. No second gas, by the way, from Worst, so it's more likely going to be +1 weapons, gateway heavy, although the Forge is not spinning for Worst, so I'm wondering what he's got up his sleeve in the space of this. A few more drones taking the field here for Wizard. Gonna go ahead and try to surge that count in the lair, not too far from finishing. I wouldn't be surprised to just see him go for more 4 hatch. Is investing in Zergling speed in the midst of this. 2 Zealots and a probe making its way out, want to try to get additional scouting information. Wizard has spread his Zerglings out in numbers and has spread them out on the map. That's going to open up a lot of opportunity for these two zealots. And usually when you open up Forge first, the problem is you can't get map presence, you can't get a lot of damage, but because of Wizard's Zergling spread, it's actually opening up an opportunity to maybe either halt or maybe get a drone kill or two here at the 9 o'clock location, making its way in, working on the sunken colony. That's giving some additional time for the Zerglings to get back this direction. The Zealot's going to ignore the 9 o'clock. We do have a sunken colony that's morphing here at the natural expansion as well. That's 2 drones that Wizard didn't want to have to invest here. And with 8 Zerglings showing themselves, Wizard's still going to, or I'm sorry, Worth's still going to hold. He does have the probe advantage in the midst of this, but once the sunken's here, yeah, just turn around. Basically, theoretically, although it does provide a little bit of padding defense, what that in essence did is it cost Wizard 2 drones, sort of for free. The Zergling's still going for the attack. Looks like they are going to get at least 1 Zealot with a pretty decent trade. Second Zealot going to get wiped out as well. So it looks like all of that is going to be erased. And another Zealot actually joined this. And so Wizard getting some great trades now in the mid game. And unfortunately, I'm not sure if that 4th hatchery was spotted or not. Corsair is able to wander up. Should be able to get a kill right there. Spire not yet complete. So at least able to get an Overlord SWAT. Is there another Corsair making its way across? Yeah. This is looking like it's going to be a macro game in both directions, and Wizard in a very fine position. Should that be the case, he's close to... He's not that far from worst worker count. Do we have some Scourge being produced? I don't... Supply cap actually for Wizard. We do have a pair of Scourge being built. That's not going to save this Overlord, and this is huge for Worst actually, because that's going to slow down the effectiveness of these hatcheries. Hydralisk Den plop down. It looks like we are going to 5 hatch. I take, or never mind. 5 hatch, Evolution Chamber for a second there. I thought that might be... Wow, another Overlord. 3 Overlord kills on these Corsairs. Great damage done. And that's a lot of supply cap. It feels like Wizard's been supply cap for nearly 2 minutes now. Second gas online for him. The Scourge are finally out in the air, but Worst has got to feel very, very comfortable in his position following this up. Still investing in +1 weapons, actually, and did trap a probe back in the corner in the midst of this as well. Going Templar Archives, Gateway, a single Gateway drop, so very light on units right this second. Usually you'll see a heavier Gateway flood in the midst of this, but we'll see if that continues here for Worst. The Scourge spotting, 6 hatchery dropped from Wizard. Pretty decent clutter, although the sunken colony is exposed against the hatcheries. It looks like another creep colony getting dropped. Maybe to rectify that, provide a little bit more support. No third gas as of yet for Wizard. He's pretty far behind in the overall supply count. Keep in mind, a good chunk of that supply is in Corsair, however, and Corsairs do not attack ground. So the real ground threat here is these 4 Zealots, and the 4 Zealots with the sunken colonies. Basically, they're not going to be able to make the difference, but Zealots plus Corsairs might get a lot of damage done. Wizard shouldn't donate these Zerglings, though. Needs to wait until these, it looks like it's going to be 5 Zealots, wait until these Zealots expose themselves to some Sunkens and use some support with the Hydralisk. A Spore colony dropping. Wow, I was expecting that to be a Sunken, but no, Spores instead. Try to provide some support. The Corsairs able to, well, 1 Corsair goes down, 1 Overlord, 2 Overlords get dropped in the midst of that. So that's more supply cap for Wizard. And the Zealot's gonna back off in the midst of that. 2 Corsair lose their lives. It looks like 2 Zealots? I think 2 Zealots got picked off in the midst of this. So Wizard holds, but this is still working out to Worst's favor. He's continually slowing down. So Wizard has a lot of hatcheries. He's got a decent economy to work with, but having trouble spending those resources, constantly having to refill his Overlord count. Do we have a lot of Gateways? We do have the Gateway flood in the midst of this. And as a result, Wizard's not quite at the point where his attack vector, his drone count's been low, and his ability to get into the attack vector has also been delayed quite a lot. It's one of those instances where it's kind of funny, where you don't feel fully safe grabbing a third, but I actually think Worst, and it would be unwise for him to do so. I also want to echo that right this second, given the current game state, but I actually think he could get away with grabbing a third base right this second. Another Overlord going to go down. These Corsair have been absolute snipers thus far. Several Hydralisks trying to pile in and chase the Corsair back. It looks like Worst is going to go ahead and maneuver towards the northern 9 o'clock base. Hydralisks are storming into position. And speaking of storm, we've got several High Templar that are waiting potentially to absorb this attack force from Wizard. The High Templar are a little bit exposed to the corner. Unfortunate timing, because it looks like that probe is likely to get picked off. Well, maybe not. Zealots, we have no Overlord, by the way, and a DT in the midst of this. It looks like Wizard spotted that, so is drawing back right this second, walking into a Psystorm. Is going to be able to force, that should force a pylon cancellation. He's not going to work on picking that off. The DT able to drive the rest of this back. The Corsair just sitting at the 6 o'clock, seeing if the 4th base is grabbed in the midst of this. So Worst has enough troops, has enough Psystorm where he can go ahead and grab this 3rd. Wizard repositioning, has a good amount of high duelists. This is not a great engagement point though, with Psystorm around the corner, and Overlord also checking that 12 o'clock, and Wizard actually backing out, doing a good job escorting this drone in here to make sure no DT or anything else was able to sneak in and halt that. So just going to go for the macro advantage. Actually cleared out his own Spore, it looks like, to make sure that gas was mining efficiently off 3. He's still pretty far behind, honestly, in the raw supply count, but a lot of this is Zealots. And so Psystorm might be important in the midst of this. Looks like Wizard doesn't like the volume of Zealots right there mid-map and is wisely backing off. The Corsair cycling in. Psystorm going to soften up both the Overlords and the High Duelists underneath. And now Worst actually he's got some support Dragoons. He's got a huge amount of Zealots. Could crash to the 6 o'clock. Already has a DT there. Forced the cancellation of the 6 and got the drone. More Overlords are making the way out, but that's potentially more exposure to Worst's attack fleet. Oh, what a beautiful blanket of Psystorm right there. Beautiful Psystorm. And the Hydral's trying to regroup. We do have some Lurkers finally out in the field. We don't have Observers quite yet. And range actually was not finished that entire time for the Hydralisks. Looks like a Corsair gonna draw back to go ahead and clear out that Overlord at the 12 o'clock. In this instance, given the supply advantage, DT was trying to stick here at the 6 o'clock. With the supply advantage, Worst might be able to expand twice. Again, would be risky to do so, but just want to throw out that he might be able to do it. He might. Wizard's starting to macro in the midst of this. He's down a huge amount of supply. He's got a very healthy worker count, though, is kind of the trick of this. So if he can somehow hold on instead of... Right now, he's picking a lot of fights that I don't think are advisable. Also, the Psystorms from Worst have I been saying Wizard this entire time? The Psystorms from Worst have been brutal. Absolutely brutal, landing on top of absolutely everything. +2? About finished here for the Hydrals, which is going to make them much more of a threat to the High Templar. But right now, as things stand, this is a somewhat slow 4th base, though Worst was somewhat slow in grabbing his 12 o'clock as well. No 4th base online, so that will keep Wizard in a pretty good economic scenario. He's not that far behind as far as the raw drone count, which means he can start surging troops out. But I will say, with the size of army that Worst is fielding, I'm a little bit concerned in Wizard's ability, 1, to continually defend the 6 o'clock, some Zerglings streaming into the north, and 2, he's not made any movements towards Hive, and there's a lot of Psystorm and what else, and Worst is doing a really good job of protecting the High Templar in this grouping, although diving, as I say that, diving headlong into a Lurker line. More Lurkers being morphed. I was just about to say that I don't feel like there's enough Lurkers that are out in the field to kind of make up that difference. Zergling's able to find a probe, by the way, on the retreat. So Wizard, with the Zerglings being annoying, finding some time. Corsair's still remaining active, by the way, and cycling around, but Wizard has not yet. So the 6 o'clock base is up, not yet saturated, and there's still a 40 supply gap, and a lot of this is actually an army now for Worst, but a lot of the army has been moving around for Worst rather than engaging. Good Psystorm on these Lurkers. So many Lurkers dropping, and more great Psystorm from Worst along that left-hand corner. Observer going to be able to wander forward. Needs to be a little bit careful because needs to get the Dragoons out here to the front. I think Worst's army has dwindled a little bit, where this might be slightly threatening at this close reinforcement point, so might want to draw back and Psystorm on retreat. Observer has been picked off. There's another observer in the space of this. But Worst, again, still maintaining a pretty solid supply lead. Is at least getting the Side Storms off, and has kept those High Templar active. Also is grabbing his 4th in the midst of this. 6 o'clock base is just barely starting to mine here for Wizard. But Wizard's managed to, at the very least, has managed to push Worst back. Worst hasn't continued to fill in towards 200. A lot of that army has dwindled. He is making his way towards Hive. And once you hit Hive Tech and you can get Defilers in play, particularly Plague, can soften up a lot of this. And the Corsair have remained active and kept a pretty good picture as far as what's going on the map here. Or Worst. Single Zealot hanging out bottom right. Big pile of units. The Lurker count has remained low consistently, mostly by force due to Psystorm. We also have, it looks like, a lone Mutalisk being constructed. I'm curious what its presence is going to do on the map. Maybe just go for a little bit of a faster scout. Lurkers starting to barrel mid-map. Not yet burrowed. Now burrowing. Those poor Zealots gonna get absolutely evaporated. Additional Storm dropping. We don't have an Observer as part of this grouping, so it was going to be Psystorm and Psystorm alone. The Observer now pushing in, but maybe a little bit too far forward. High Templar dying to his own Storm, it looks like, rather than Lurker fire. A bit there. And Worst leaving a large portion of his drew a huge portion of his army to top right, and left a large portion of the rest of his army exposed to Wizard's attack force. I wonder if we're going to see, like, just a... So we've got this. Are we going to see a Greater Spire and a single Mutalisk turn into a Guardian to do some fun action that way? That would be kind of cute. Hydralisks are pushing bottom right to make sure that bottom right sector of the map remains denied. We're still maintaining that 50 supply lead. Feels like he's been up 40 or 50 supply this entire time. More Lurkers morphing mid-map as the as the probes are saturating the 9 o'clock base. That's actually putting him at an overall economic advantage. Yeah, single Mutalisk. Wonder if that was just a macro mistake. Also, Adrenal Glands about finished. We do have +1 armor on these Zerglings. Corsair's going to engage and find some free Overlords as well as that blown Mutalisk. We hardly knew ye. Wizard in the red again. One problem for Worst has been, however, ooh, he's very Dragoon heavy. Love to see a Defiler, but one problem for Worst is even though he's been fielding very sizable armies, he's not been able to get the entirety of his armies into these attack patterns. You can see where kind of the Zealots are scattered back, and the back line of Dragoons really haven't been able to engage. And as a result, Wizard fielding more of a spike. He's been trading not so terribly. Got the Observer pick right there. You have a single Lurker out to the right. Now, as I say that, Wizard completely dominated that fight as a side note. Yeah, or sorry, Worst completely dominated that fight as a side note. We got a Battle Probe, by the way, wandering. Looks like a hatchery is going to get grabbed bottom right. That probe absolutely exploded. More Overlords getting annihilated. It looks like it's just Zerglings to try to defend, and unfortunately Zerglings do not attack air. They cannot jump that high. And so Overlord's continuing to melt, and this is continuing to supply cap Wizard, which is allowing Worst to draw further and further ahead. The Corsair going to draw back at this stage. Those Corsair have been magnificent this entire game, honestly. Zerglings just sitting there watching that pylon build. Traitors made friends with the probe. Okay, now they jump back on it. See if a few units make their way that direction. Bottom right hand base is up for Wizard, but Worst has nearly double the supply. Should be able to, that single Zealot +2 weapons. Even with that, I don't think that's going to be sufficient. Okay, that's a better attack force to clear that out. But Worst is starting to gather a pretty sizable army. A little bit light on Observers, and the Observers need to be tilted towards the front. I think, given the supply difference, he could threaten the 6 o'clock base. But he's going to need to make it through an absolute minefield of Lurkers here. But as I say that, potentially no problem. Psystorm landing on a slew of them, catching a lot of Zerglings alongside. The Zealots are getting cleaned up fairly quickly, but Wizard recognized the lurker line wasn't going to hold it, and he was going to lose his 6 o'clock. Is going to GG right there. So Worst, again, I think I kept messing up their names back and forth, so I apologize for that. But Worst takes game 1, which might be indicative. We might see a repeat here in the finals here. Keep that in mind. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.